Yeah. What did you do to your arm?
Oh, my dog.
Oh my goodness.
What
Yeah.
the dog you did to your arm?
Uh,
Chew it.
Scratched
I
it.
can't, I know you can't, just
So,
a minute.
what did you do? Was it claw or chew?
She dug her claws in. Give me your hand.
I have the same thing on my left arm. My little dog does mine
And
too.
she got me up here
They're,
too.
they're just trying to show you how much they love
Yeah,
you.
She's holding you and she's trying to
Yeah.
get you Donna.
It must be something
So
like
she's
that.
gonna go on the leash and learn some training that way.
Yucky, yucky.
She was got determined to get to her. It
Oh,
was,
So we have fun today?
oh man.
Did we brand?
No.
That's always, that sounds like you were.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be here if we landed because I'd be wiped out. But I put a metal cabinet together today. I
For
ordered
which one?
for our tack room in the barn. I ordered 2 of them for the tack room and I only got 1 put together.
But the next one will go together
I
probably
hope so.
easier because you
Yeah.
know how to,
Yeah.
you know it in and out this time.
Yeah, I hope so. But, yeah, I just took my time and hung out in the barn and got that put together and I don't have to take the old cabinet and completely empty it. It's full of stuff.
Plus all the dust and bug stuff and my stuff and everything else stuff.
Yeah.
Hello,
Stuff and
Roger.
stuff.
How are you?
Hello.
Yeah. So
I
I
am
gotta go through, take all that stuff out,
frazzled.
try to get,
Did
find
you
a
get
home,
the
trailer
job?
home or
What's
sell.
that?
Did you
that
get the
other
job?
cabinet.
I can't remember where it was you were
In
interviewing.
your,
At the
Well,
mine,
that
it's a
was,
new
the
shop.
interviews I had 2 weeks ago was at the
your
Bible
helper,
College in
Oh, I don't
Gary,
think it's-
Nebraska,
Oh, that was the one I'm thinking of.
okay?
sometimes
And then there was a church in
Yeah, you're right.
Billings
Really, I could put it in the
and
wellhouse, though.
church in Rifle, Colorado.
I might do that.
The church in Rifle, Colorado has suspended their
Yeah.
search
Then I went
because
overboard.
Yeah.
their
Well,
parsonage
I'm
is
sorry.
not
They can have the storage.
online yet,
You never
I
know.
know.
and they can't hire a minister unless,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
because the cost of living there is super high. The amount that they're offering for salary
And they're in the
is-
freezer.
is less than what it costs to rent a place there, so they have to have
I'm
the
telling you,
parsonage
so I know.
available.
Is
that Estes Park?
What's that?
Estes Park is
No, Rifle.
Rifle.
Yeah, the cheapest house in Rifle is $750,000.
$20.
May wanna
Well,
follow
that's what Estes Park was doing too. They were trying to build their park there.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's
They may be.
Yeah,
They are.
Okay, well,
my understanding though is that they were doing a double wide or something like that.
oh, okay.
That's a mistake.
Well, thank you so much. You have a little experience
It's called
with that.
disposable housing.
Oh, I know.
And Steve's out of the farm.
Well, that's our-
And
Yeah,
besides,
it-
if he works, he doesn't have any
It's
insurance.
that, they think, oh, we can get more square footage. You can house the same amount of people
It was funny
in a
because
house
we were
half the
out
size of
there
a
and
double
I-
wide,
It is.
we were
and be
measuring
more
tape.
secure
And I
than,
kind of marked where I wanted the trees.
than being in a double wide and have twice the room.
He said, okay, now you
Go
need,
down
so
on
I was taking
humans,
notes.
Uh-huh.
even our Christian
And
family
he
or
said,
whatever.
make sure to get this, make sure to get that. I said, you're going to say.
And
You don't know what you
the
volunteered
church in
for,
Billings,
buddy.
I told them, I said,
You know, money
Okay,
and.
you can have
can
these
you
stuff,
interview
but I
me
don't
this
know
month?
if I
I'm
get
not
the
saying you
right
have to
stuff.
decide with me,
Yeah,
but if
you
you
need the right
interview me
stuff.
this
Yes.
month,
We're able.
So he's
I'm
like,
willing to
"Oh,
pay the full amount.
amount of time and
That's really.
3 hours one way, 3 hours back.
I,
Next month, when I move to my house in Texas, it's gonna be $1,000 airfare,
someone for the first three, right?
You're welcome.
and they'll have to pay it,
That's what
because
gets me
I don't have that
free,
kind of
always
money.
free.
Yeah, but we got that all set up and then.
But they still said,
But that'd be
no,
neat though,
we're not
when
gonna,
they
we're
start-
gonna do it
Yeah,
the
I
way
hope
that,
they will.
we're gonna do it our way, or
And then Mark-
no way, and it's like, well, then pay the price.
So we got them all planted, got the drill system put on, and then we got that nice rain, so I was having.
That's right, so that's perfect for them.
Yeah, so
that's right.
really nice, yeah.
And then there's a church in Albuquerque,
Yeah. So I didn't,
I'll say
I
that
didn't
because
start
I'm talking
looking
to
at
them.
all. I probably.
But they're not,
Depends on what
they
the
said
weather
You know, it just.
they're not
I'm
even
really excited.
preparing themselves to have somebody come until July 1st.
Because those are pretty trees.
Yeah, they are, and I put them
All
on
winter water and
Yeah.
everything, see 'em?
I put them on the
And
north
they don't have a
side, so we
parsonage
make
at
a
all.
nice windbreak going on.
Mom, what was your song? Did you come up with the title?
And they were,
Something
a
go
lot
off
of where I
here.
planted them, our old hired man kept his goats there. So,
For the fertilizer.
yeah,
Well, fertilizer, what you're trying to tell me.
it's really good mulch there, so.
Well, they're good about that, right?
Yeah,
I tell ya.
so hopefully that'll work.
Nothing you know. Nothing you go through.
Yeah. Well, when Josie was living there, she likes to garden and can and all
Is
that
Grace
stuff.
rich as me?
No. We used to have goats there. It's a great spot for a barn. Just saying. She was like, oh, great. Of course, that didn't work out.
Her marks match yours.
That was a year ago.
I thought about cleaning that today, but I thought, no, I better.
Yep, that's it,
one
1:13.
from seventh grade college. One of our classmates got
You need song selection?
I think I got it now.
busted for sure.
I was just trying to work with a non-titled, non-numbered song there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, deeper than the ocean is the correct word.
Because they
Well,
kept
they
it,
never wanted to
Yeah, also-
emphasize that this wasn't a fun thing to do.
right,
Sometimes they want to
Where's
emphasize
that start
too.
Randy Travis's song?
This isn't something you
It
just
could
go
be.
out and do.
right.
Randy Travis
right.
does a lot of Christian
But
songs.
I guess,
How would you want to
I guess she called Brenda and wanted Brenda to pay the bills at the bail bondsman. And Brenda said, I don't want to get involved with this. And
So if you deserve being jailed, you deserve
she
being
said,
jailed.
you need to contact your husband. And her husband, I guess, because Brenda wanted the day to give me an update.
Brenda's gonna get her wish tonight.
What's her
Smaller chunks
I'm proud of them. Every two times.
I know.
on that.
Yeah.
But on Sunday she said make the whole thing.
Nobody in town
You
actually
didn't have anybody.
Yep, to save her. Yep.
Sorry, what are you gonna do?
The one I got, eliminate one side.
Oh, yeah, that was not atypical.
But you weren't allowed to use black folly on the house. And
You're just not
I don't know why.
I gotta get mine.
Yeah, but there's differences. I don't know what.
So, and then the other side, I heated up enough I can barb fitting in it.
Oh, let me get that.
That's what you do with Polly anyway. So a hose clamp.
But, oh, here it is.
Did you get your hair cut?
Well, it's just a sign that you shouldn't eat that.
Finally got it
Yeah.
done.
You want me to open it for you? Maybe I can taste it for you.
Brenda,
honor than ever.
yeah, you got that
Are
right.
you doing okay?
I'm not. But I'll be sharing that in our prayer request. Well, I am. I'm in good spirits.
Just what?
Yeah, I'm in good spirits, but it need some major prayer. I posted it on Facebook today.
Can I have
should
my
we-
ears?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry, Brenda, I've been not with it tonight.
You want to keep me silent. I know what you wanted.
Yeah.
Keep you in your place.
Yes.
This is.
Did you know that, Dennis, did you know that your truck gas thing flaps open as you're driving down the road?
It's when I turn to the right, it flings out, there's no latch.
I see.
I need to get a couple.
I
of
just
magnets
noticed it
or
was
something.
flapping in the wind.
Yeah, the answer, my friend.
The answer's, what is it, the answer's blowing
It's
in the
the
wind.
answer. is-
There you go.
Thank you very much.
He's
How
getting
did the
bigger
first treatment
every
go?
day.
Yep, she is. Then the freak.
Show your teeth off, Miley.
Yeah, show off your teeth.
You got toothies?
If you flip her upside down, you can see them all.
Oh, you got some
What a
of
pretty face.
Listen, Mama, she said to do this. She said to do this.
You should not do that, dear.
I should not do that.
Trusting.
All right.
Don't we do
I like your
Let's
haircut.
make sure mine is
Well, thank
upside
you.
right.
Either that or your head's rolled over.
All right, we'll start with song
My
113.
head grew.
You have a bunch of people sick today?
I don't know, I haven't heard from Brian. Usually I hear from him. Yeah. 113. We don't have to do the secondary Oz based on the audience. Does that sound fair? Okay. All right, we'll sing both verses. Let's sing it. Deeper than the ocean and wider than the sea is the grace of the Savior for sinners like me. Sent from the Father, and it thrills my soul just to feel and to know that His blood makes me whole. Yes, His grace reaches me. Yes, His grace reaches me and will last through eternity. Now I'm under His control, and I'm happy in my soul. Just to know that His grace reaches me higher than the mountains and brighter than the sun. It was offered at Calvary for everyone. Greatest of treasures, and it's mine today. Though my sins were as scarlet, He has washed them away. Yes, His grace reaches me. Yes, His grace reaches me
And will last.
through eternity. Now I'm under His control, and I'm happy in my soul. Just to know that His grace reaches me. All right, 4-5-3. Have we sung this one recently? Love Lifted Me? It was familiar to me, but not from us, I guess. Never mind. Maybe it's just stuck in my head. All right, 4-5-3. Love Lifted Me. I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore, very deeply stained within, seeking to rise no more. But the master of the sea heard my despairing cry. From the waters lifted me, now safe am I. Love lifted even me, love lifted even me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me, love lifted even me, love lifted even me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me. All my heart to Him I give, ever to Him I'll cling. In His blessed presence live, ever His praises sing. Love so mighty and so true, merits my soul's best songs. Faithful loving service to Him belongs. else could help. Love lifted even me. Love lifted even me. Love lifted even me. When nothing else could help. Love lifted me. Good thing I stood up for songs. I got my step going just now, so thank you. Thank you. All right, do we have any praises or prayers we'd like to share tonight? Dennis?
Yeah, on both, we appreciated the prayers from people. Marie started her chemo yesterday, and boy, last night she felt they had added some steroids in with it, and she didn't even take much of her pain pills or nothing, and slept good all night, which is the first in at least a month. And through today, she did some things and got around pretty good and wasn't miserable all day. It was very nice for the change. I forgot.
Awesome.
I appreciate it, and I know a lot of good people are praying. She does too.
It's nice to have your wife back.
Yeah, 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 she's been able to actually walk a little without crawling across the floor and stuff.
Hang with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is encouraging to hear that she's
Yes.
feeling a pep in her step
Yes.
a little bit.
That's right, and not in grueling pain the whole time. Yeah. But thank you, and keep the prayers going.
Is that chemo?
She just started the first actual active thing that wasn't just tests and explorations yesterday. Her first chemo, and that'll be about 5 weeks. Once a day each week.
For about, she's in there for a good while every day, right?
Right, she was in there yesterday, I think about 6 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Is each day?
Huh?
Each day?
Every day?
Every day.
No, just Mondays,
Just Monday.
12 days.
Tuesdays, whatever, yeah, Tuesdays, I guess.
Does she have any interest we could help? Like, does she like books or movies or crosswords?
Well, she's got quite a bit of stuff.
She does?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, thank you though.
I went to the doctor yesterday, my primary care doctor. Fortunately, he's also a surgeon. And I have a bump on my leg that, well, it's not just a bump on my leg, it's been bugging me for quite a while. And I've tried to do all the over-the-counter medications and creams and everything. I even poked it with a needle and got some liquid out of it and stuff, and then that actually relieved. I actually had no pain for about a week after I did that, but it grew in the last month, and so I went there yesterday, and I have it's a cancer that's called subdermal carcinoma. Now it's a rare skin cancer. The reason that they even hesitate calling it a skin cancer, but I looked it up on, it says it's a rare skin cancer that's underneath the skin. It originates in the oil glands of the skin. And so it's on my left leg. And it's about 1.5 inches long now and about 1/2 inch wide, and he says it's about 1/2 inch deep. And I'm going in for surgery to have it all removed on Friday at 3 p.m.
Thanks for telling me.
Where?
in Thermopolis. And it's gonna be at the doctor's office, I don't go to the hospital. They're gonna put me on a bunch of different medications to kill the pain. So I won't be knocked out, but I can't see it anyway. I can feel it with my hand, but I can't see it. And so they said they're gonna make 2 incisions. They didn't say anything about grafting anything, but he said he was sure that it had a taproot on it that it's trying to bore into the muscle.
So they want to get it out of there.
Right, so that's why because other people told me, it says, you're having surgery all in 1 week from, and I said, yep, well, that's what he said, so. It's a slow growing thing, but Dennis said it is a rare, there is another cancer that's called causaceous carcinoma. That's the one that's real fast growing. But it's the most common, and easiest to get rid of, but.
So this one's rare, you said?
Right, this one's rare, and if it's rare, I'm gonna get it. Story of my life. So they're gonna take it out on Friday. Then he said, they'll stitch it up, and then I have to go back in 10 days for them to, and then they're gonna also send it off to
Sure.
verify that it is what he says it is.
Yeah, we'll definitely be praying for that, Roger.
Yep.
But I'm glad they're getting on it.
Right.
That's great.
And, yeah, I was glad, because when I went in there yesterday, I said, can you just cut it out today? I mean, it's just,
Right there.
but, no, can't do it.
Well, Friday's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
And then also I'm still applying for stuff, interviewing for jobs. I told several of them that have interviewed me on the phone, I said, because they've all said, oh, well, we're going through our process, it's gonna take 2 or 3 months. I said, well, it's gonna get more expensive for you if you wanna do an in-person interview, 'cause, like the ones that are around here. So essentially, that's probably what'll happen is I'll be at my home in Texas for about a month or 6 weeks, and then I'll move somewhere else again.
When are you planning to leave Thermopolis? What's the
First
itinerary?
week of June, so a month from now.
Okay, yeah, we're definitely praying over that.
So I think my last Sunday will be June 1st,
Okay.
and I'll move that week. My goal is to depart on the Thursday, whatever that is.
Well, the first is Sunday, so.
Yes, Sunday, so is that the 5th?
Yeah, probably, yeah, that makes sense to me.
So, yeah, I'm hoping to leave then, so I'll have at least one day of recovery in Texas before I have to go back to church. And I'll be going to the Church of Christ in Memphis, Texas.
All right, anything else? Okay, well, let's open up with a word of prayer, and then we've got probably one of the most famous chapters of 1 Corinthians to look at, also the shortest chapter of 1 Corinthians, so take that as you please. But, all right, let's go ahead and pray. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight. We are thankful for the opportunity to get to study together. We pray for those that are not with us, and we don't necessarily know all of the reasons why, but we are missing Mike and Charlotte and Larry and Betty tonight, and we just are keeping them in our hearts and prayers tonight, Lord. I want to lift up specifically Roger as he's shared his health concern, that we pray that the doctors have good guidance over that, and that if it's your will, that you completely remove that disease from him with one simple operation. That's what we would pray, Lord. We're also uplifted and still praying for Marie, just encouraged to hear that she is doing well with this first treatment. We do know it'll be a long road of treatments though, Lord, and so we pray for her strength. We pray for Dennis too, as his wife has been suffering for a long time now, Lord, that you continue to encourage both of them. Thank you again for the many blessings that you give us every day that we sometimes neglect to count. But let us not do that, but rather count them every day. Most of all, thank you for your Son, Jesus. It's in his name that we pray. Amen. All right, well, 1 Corinthians 13, I guess, since I've got caught on this before, is there anything from chapter 12 that we haven't, got a chance to talk about, or maybe you've been thinking about and you have a question about? Chapter 12, I would say the bulk message, Paul uses the example of the human body to talk about how the church is a body. We serve in different roles and have different jobs, but we all have a valuable part in the system, in the body. Courtney, it's batteries. My batteries. Did we get them out of the tech room? 2 double A's, thank you. I was trying to figure out why I couldn't. Could you hear me, Brenda? Okay. My batteries were dying. It was blinking red at me. So Paul uses a really good example in chapter 12. Something that every human gets, the body, you know, and so the main encouragement that I wanted to encourage is, again, God and the Holy Spirit decide your giftedness and your place in the body. And so it's not for us to be jealous of what other parts are doing, but rather do the part we are to have. And I also wanted to encourage that every part is valuable. I think Paul makes that pretty clear, that every part is in service to the Lord. And so don't shy away from what you've been called to do. And then also the last piece that Paul kind of points out, I think, is desire even the higher gifts, strive for a more excellent way. I see that as not only try to do what you are doing now most excellently, but reach for higher goals to serve God even better in the body. And so I think Paul gives a really good example. Chapter 12, it's equally famous to chapter 13, I would say. Thank you, Courtney. Just 2.
Secular people use chapter 13.
That's true. Oh, green light. There we go. Okay. Well, before we dive into chapter 13, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what it's about, because I want to clarify the word love. So it's about love.
4-letter word.
The 4-letter, Brenda said it in the car tonight, it's the 4-letter word chapter, right? So L-O-V-E. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, we have the word love in our English language, but if you were to look at the Greek, there's multiple words for love, right? And so, let me find I have them up here. So we have eros in Greek, which means romantic love. Philia, which you might recognize, Philadelphia, brotherly love, right? So that's a city of brotherly love, family type love. You can have philia for more than just your brother. But storge, which is like close friends, also kind of like family. Ludus, which is playful love, like children usually. They say that one, like loving like children. Mania, which is obsessive. We use that one sometimes. Pragma, enduring love. Philatia, which is self-love, loving yourself. And then agape. That's the one we're talking about tonight. Agape is selfless love, loving of humans and others. In Christianity, we usually say agape is loving like Christ did. Because it's the love that trumps all of them, because it's selfless, self-sacrificing. It doesn't, what we're about to read, it fits that description. So the reason I say that is in chapter 13, every time you see the word love, it's agape love. And it's important because we're going to basically read a description of what love is, what agape love is. See, if you use some of these other Greek words, like eros, romantic, steamy love, this wouldn't necessarily fit that. But the love that trumps all, the self-sacrificing, selfless, loving like Christ, this is a description of that, basically. And so, Brenda's going to get her wish a little bit tonight. I tried to break it up pretty small, but we still have a couple verses. We're going to only do the first 3 verses for our first talking point. Again, this is only 13 verses long, this chapter. And we'll talk about the first 3 verses, then we'll move on from there, just 3 or 4 verses at a time. So, let's start with chapter 13, verses 1 through 3. Does somebody want to read that? All right, Roger, go for it.
And now I will show you the more excellent way. If I speak in tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have a gift of prophecy and can fathom all the mysteries and all the knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing.
Okay. So, Brenda kind of pointed, or somebody pointed this out last week. It's hard to put a chapter break between 12 and 13 because why? Well, In chapter 12, we're talking about maybe different giftedness, especially at the beginning. Paul kind of brings it back at the end to different giftedness, saying, does everybody have this gift, or does everybody have this gift? His answer to that is, the very last piece of chapter 12, the very first piece of chapter 13 is, let me show you a more excellent way. And the more excellent way is the way of agape, of love. And so, he starts off in verse 1 telling the church, if I, and I think he's using I not about himself, but a person, a man, a humanity, if a humanity speaks in the tongues of men and of angels, but has not love, I am like a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. So just in one verse, we already have something kind of powerful there. Whatever giftedness you might have, he uses the example of tongues. If I can prophesy and I can speak in tongues and I can convince lots of people with the words I say, but I don't do it out of self-sacrificing love, I'm just making a bunch of noise, like cymbals or a gong. Verse 2, he gives another example. We'll talk about all three of these here. If I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but I have not love, agape love, I am nothing. In verse 3, if I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but I have not love, I have gained nothing. And so there's basically, in these first three verses, there's four different giftednesses, I guess you could say. There is speaking, both in tongues and prophecy. Verse 2, talking about prophetic powers, goes a little bit deeper than just like preaching, I would say, right? He says, understanding all the mysteries. If God has revealed every mystery to you of the entire creation, even if you had that and you had not love, it would be worthless. If you had so much faith that you could even move a mountain by commanding it to, like Jesus himself teaches about, faith like a mustard seed, but you don't have love, you're still nothing. And then the last one, if you are so self-sacrificing and give away everything you have and you're burned at the stake, but you have not love, you've gained nothing. And I think this is an important start to the chapter, and that's why I said that this is agape love, and you can go look in the Strong's or your interlinear or whatever, you can find that out. It is agape. I think sometimes we read chapter 13 and we fill in other types of love. And I think the one that we might, maybe there's a couple we might fill it in. The one I think we most often fill it in with is friendship type love. Or maybe brotherly love, like family, storge.
Yeah.
Eros? Okay, so Courtney's saying we fill them in with all the other ones, right?
Yeah, Eros is, I think, the most common one because it's almost all the time read at a wedding.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Now, this can apply to a wedding because, yes, there should be some Eros love there, but maybe more importantly than that, there should be agape love in all of these situations, right? But usually, I think what Roger's point is we'll focus in on a different type of love and quote this, basically, right? And so if you do that with, like, your friendship love, maybe your family love, or even your Eros, you're kind of missing the point. And that's why I say agape, I'm placing that above all of these, because it's that selfless love, loving like Jesus, loving all. So how do we grapple with this example that Paul is giving in chapter 13? Of if we do all of these really good, gifted things that can be from God, having faith that you can do anything, obviously is from God. You can't do that on your own. How do we grapple with the fact that none of it is effective if we don't have selfless agape love?
I've seen so many people do great things in order to impress other people sometimes, but also it's that they also see a need and they want to help, but it's not from love of God. It's more love of themselves as to what they could get for themselves. It's a good feeling that they have when they do it, I guess I should say. But it's not, so many times, I consider it like Mary and Martha. Martha was comparing her service to Mary, and she wasn't, if you're busy comparing your service, then you're not doing it out of love. If you're doing it out of love, you don't care what other people are doing. You're doing it because you love that person and that you love God, and you're trying to show God how much you love God. But so many times we like to compare ourselves to other people like Mary and Martha, or like Cain and Abel. We like to compare ourselves, and in that way, then we negate our gift. We negate it by trying to compare it to other people.
And let me just, I'm going to use the 4 examples that were already given in these first 3 verses, right? And I'm just going to say them in a way that I would say them. So if you are a powerful preacher, and you speak good words, and you just do it out of your self-love is the example, that because you want to feel good about it, it's missing the mark, right? If you understand so many incredible things of science and creation, and you just do it so you can be smarter than everyone else in the room, out of self-love, you're missing the mark. Even if you have faith because you're saved, right? That's a dangerous one. We can fall into that. I have faith because I'm saved. Is it because you love God and you love everyone He desires? Or even the last one's a big one I see a lot. If you are really generous because it makes you feel good. That would be self-love. I'm using Brenda's example of the self-love thing. And so I think absolutely if we misread this with anything but agape, we're really missing the point. Great.
It reminds me of the quote that I keep harassing Harold with. It's from a podcast, not me, but it says the call of a leader is to die first. And that self-sacrificial love, it kind of goes hand in hand, that when we show love, we're willing to die first and to be that living sacrifice. And sometimes that's by murdering our pride. Sometimes it's, I think about the stories I told a few months ago, about my friends who held me accountable, and they put our friendship on the line, but they wanted me to be better more than that. I mean, that was self-sacrificing. They were benefiting from our friendship, and they risked it to help me. Yeah, I think there's lots of ways we can be very creative in the ways that we're self-sacrificial.
These kids, I don't know if they should be allowed in here. They're very distracting. So, I know this is a very obvious thing to share, but sometimes I think we forget to think about this. We talk about John 3:16 a lot, but what's the word in there? For God so loved the world. Do you know what it is? It's agape. That He what? He gave His only begotten Son. When Jesus is in His final hours on the earth before He gets taken to the cross, what do we see happen? A lot of long-suffering love. In the garden, He asked that if God will, Father, if you will, take this cup from me, right? He's so anxious, if you will, that He is sweating blood. He is fulfilling agape love that was shared to be the point of His being on the earth in John chapter 3. I think the most powerful thing that we can see about Jesus in those final hours is that agape love was very hard even to God on earth. The Son asked the Father if there was another way, and He didn't get an answer that there was. And it's very enduring, agape is. So that's why I said, you can read it at a wedding, but if the power behind it at the wedding was really there, it would be very challenging and less romantic, as Roger was saying, romantic.
Well, but that's appropriate.
Yeah, it is
Because
appropriate.
marriage is fairly challenging, because you have to get out of your own way. And that's the kind of love it's talking about.
And when it comes to the church, this is what we're called to be. You know, Paul hasn't said that yet. It's alluded to in this whole chapter that this is a call for us, not just a description, but a call for us if we're going to be Christians. Our call is to have agape love. And like I said, I think we often swap that out in the church even for things like family, for things like brother, because we have brothers and family in the church, right? That's the example of the body that we're just given. Oh, you're next. But we're called higher than that. We're called to
think,
agape.
The passage where Jesus says the greatest commandment is to love God with all of your heart, spirit. I forget all of them. But to me, that's agape because it lists all these different ways that you're supposed to love God. And then you're supposed to love your neighbor. And so, to me, that explains it. It breaks it down. It's not just one way.
Absolutely. All right, Courtney.
One of my favorite songs talks about this verse, and it gave me a different perspective. It says, if I do all these things, but I don't have love, well, at best, it means nothing. And that was thought-provoking to me, because I think that's true at best. When we, especially when we do all these wonderful Christian things without love, at best it's going to mean nothing, and at worst it's going to really hurt people. And the final words of the song are, I want it to mean something. And yeah, I put a lot of effort into this Christian thing. I'd really like it to mean something, so.
Is that the For King and Country song?
It's not.
Oh.
It's
Because
absurd.
I was thinking of the For King and Country song earlier.
It's pretty much a quote.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
What's the song you're thinking of?
It's obscure. It's this guy with the gravelly voice. I don't know. I don't even know his name.
Okay. All right.
It's not mainstream, babe.
Okay. All right, so that's how Paul starts this chapter off. And then verse 4 through 7 gives us more of the description of what loving with agape looks like, right? Because the first 3 verses were like all the things we can be gifted with and all the things we can do would be pointless if we didn't have agape love. So what does agape love look like? And so, actually, most of the rest of the chapter is about that, but I'm breaking it up verses 4 through 7. Sean?
Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wrong. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance.
And the first 3 words of verse 8, love never ends. Terrible, terrible verse break there.
Prophecy and speaks in unknown languages.
I'm going to talk about that next. Love never ends fits both things of those, but love never ends, I think, ties into what is this agape love. So, love is patient and kind. I think it's interesting that those two are paired together. The pairings together stick to me for some reason. Love is patient and kind. I think we all know what patience is because we don't want to practice it most of the time, right? I like the term, does anybody have a different word for patient there? Maybe old King James. Anybody have the King James in here? I can pull it up. Mike and Charlotte
Long
aren't here.
suffering, is that what?
That's the word I would like.
I think King James says long suffering.
I love that term.
It's very descriptive.
For me, it's very descriptive.
Putting up with you.
All right, yeah. King James even has it even harder than that. Charity, agape love, suffereth long. Agape suffereth long, and I like that because that is a good descriptor of what patience is, right? Patience is not actually really patience when it's something you're eager to wait on. I don't really have to be patient for April 15th every year when I have to pay my taxes, right? It's because it's more the other side. After I do pay my taxes, if there's a return, I have to suffer it long, right? I want for it to come back. And so patience in in its own definition, has this idea of some long-suffering to it. And that is paired with kindness. And I think that's interesting because love is patient and kind. Oftentimes when we are long, waiting, and or suffering, or long suffering together, that's the times when we find ourselves not being so kind, I would say. I don't know, maybe you guys are different humans than me. So I found those interesting, those two pairings. The next two pairings is love does not envy or boast. Again, interesting, I just looked at the pairings. How would we define envy?
Jealousy.
Jealousy, desiring
Something's
Others
not right to
Desiring something you ain't got.
Desiring something you ain't got. Usually we think in material terms, but it can also be, it can be so many things, right? It can be
Power is immaterial.
power. Status is kind of equal with power, but even things that are blessings that we don't have. Maybe giftedness, like we just talked about in chapter 12. So envy, but then there's the opposite side of envy too. If you do have a giftedness, love doesn't boast either. So love isn't jealous of what you don't have or arrogant of what you do. Love is instead not self-seeking, it's self-sacrificing. Both of those things are self-sacrificing. The fact that you don't desire what someone else has and you don't boast about what God's given you. Completely self-sacrificing. Arrogant and rude are the next ones. Love is not arrogant or rude. They're less opposites than the last ones, but arrogant kind of leans into boasting is kind of how my brain goes. The way I think about arrogance, and this is just Harold's commentary, is being proud of yourself for, instead of being proud that God has. Because I think pride's a tough one. We've had sermons about pride before, but I think it's appropriate for us to have pride in what God can do and what He has done. But arrogance is kind of that piece where it's like, now this is all about the pride of me. And so that's how I think about arrogant. You have a comment?
Yeah,
Go for it.
this is something I've thought about recently. I noticed a lot of my sentences begin with the word I. And I just was thinking and thinking about how that could be different and how I could honor God better, saying I a lot. And I finally came to the conclusion, if I start my sentence with God. So instead of, I've really grown in my humility, God has really, blessed me.
That's what I was going to say.
God has really helped me murder my hubris.
I was going to say, I think the way that it's easier to phrase that is to not throw in haphazardly, but to think about using the word blessed there. Because you can even say, I have been blessed by practicing humility. It's a blessing, even though it wasn't fun in the moment, right? Or
I'm proud to be humble.
Thanks, Moses.
and so I like that.
I think it's better if you say God bless.
God has blessed me with. There you go. So there you go. That's a
With
good thing to
opportunities
practice.
to be.
So not arrogant or rude. Let me look at I want to look at the word there for rude real quick. Verse 5. The first. In the Greek, it's hard to find what it is.
Go to the King James.
Yeah, I got the King James right here, so that's not hard. Easily provoked. Is that the next one? That's insist on. So the King James, I think, says, does not behave itself unseemingly for rude. I'm having a hard time finding what word that is in the Greek.
Look up unseemly.
This one right here? Well, maybe I'm not being very helpful there. Maybe I should have prepared to look at this word instead of just right now. There you go. Yeah, to provoke or to stir is what rude is, I think.
And it would mean in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Not to lift up somebody's spirits, but to blast them down.
So if you want to find the Greek word later, it's paroxono. Okay? I'm trying my best there.
Provoke has a negative connotation. You don't usually provoke someone into doing something nice.
That's the way we use it, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But
Provoke
the
is kind of
rude
weak there.
is that what you meant, or is, yeah?
So-
Rude is, in one manner or another, pushing others aside. It'd go along with the arrogant thing pretty good. You know, you step aside here, I'm more important than you are, you know, or I need to be the first one to that steak or cake, you know, and you step aside, peon, you know, I mean, it's a very gross, it's so unchristian, it's, yet we probably have had Christians we've known in our life that were rude or arrogant or both. And I mean, like, I actually had a preacher once said, "What do you know about the Bible? My dad's a self-made millionaire, and he knows how to interpret this."
Woof.
I mean, it was a put down, it was a brag, it was everything that's wrong. You know, chapter 13 would say love ain't.
So this is kind of a good point. I was waiting to figure out where it'd come up, but just kind of in the middle here, we'll talk about it. What is the danger of, instead of, these are all, is not, this one specifically is not rude, it is patient and kind, it is not arrogant, it is not rude. What is the danger of doing the opposite? Well, then it's no longer love, right? And so maybe it looks like love, and maybe it's because it looks like some of the other words, not agape. But for our perspective, this is something I think about a lot, is it not only ruins our love, but it ruins our witness of the ultimate love, which is John 3:16, right? And so Dennis's example there of people in the church that can be rude or arrogant, or both at the same time, was basically his example. It can ruin our witness of being a Christian if we identify as that, or reaching others with the love of Christ. So my point with that is that if we aren't doing these practices of how we can agape love, it will no longer be love. And so I think that's really dangerous. We can fall into that trap a lot because a lot of us have fallen into the trap of arrogance or rudeness or lack of patience, long suffering, not being kind, any of these. Okay, we talked about rude, insisting on its own way. The Greek word there is seeking self, right? Insisting on its own way, and it is not irritable or resentful. So there's a couple different pieces in there, but self-seeking, seeking its own way, that kind of ties into arrogance and rudeness as well. My way or the highway is how I think we would probably look at that. True love, even though your way might be better, because it is long-suffering, it's patient, it's also not insisting on its own way. That's a tough one because sometimes we get to a place where you know your way is probably the way that'll keep someone safe. Have you ever thought about that? So insisting is kind of the term that means a lot to me there. Is you might be right, but in order to really love agape someone, maybe it's not the time. I don't know, I just thought about that. Insisting is kind of the word that I was clinging on to there. Irritable or resentful. We don't want to not be irritable, that's just natural, right?
That one gets on my nerves.
That one gets on my, yeah. And again, using Christians, our fellow Christians as examples, and sometimes us as examples, right? Irritability can go a long ways to ruin the witness of love, of agape. Why? Because, well, I'm not even gonna talk to that person. They just get rude and irritable at me. Those two kind of pair together pretty easy.
I have one nerve left and you're standing on it.
Yep. And then what happens after that is the next one, resentful, right? So somebody has maybe not agape you correctly based on this list. And so they were irritable towards you and they were rude to you. If we really love them, we're not holding on to that. We're not holding on to resent, which again goes against what we would call our human nature sometimes. And I think that's a valid point to point out. Agape love goes against our human nature. Why? Because it's not from us, it's from God. It's self-sacrificing. And so anything that we are to do is to be more like God. And so agape is a good example of that multiple times over. All right, do you guys have any comments through verse 6 there before I do 7? All right, it's fine. All right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. These ones get a little more abstract, I guess you could say, right? What's bear? How would we describe bears with something or someone?
Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through everything.
Okay, gives up
He gives a little difference.
Yeah, gives us a good description of what bears is, right?
Is that the first one in
Verse 7, yep.
Yeah, this says protects.
Mine's completely different.
All right, let's hear Peggy's for a second here.
If you love someone, you will be loyal to him no matter, I got lost. No matter what the cost. You will always believe in him, always expect the best of him, and always stand your ground in defending him.
Okay, so the first one is the most wordy one. It's beareth all things in the King James. You will stand with him no matter what the cost, is what Peggy said. So we still use the term bears every once in a while. We will say, bear with me a moment. That's pretty much the only time I hear it in our modern English. Bear with me. And we're like, oh, I know what that means, but we don't really know what that means. Just wait a while. But it means to continue on with me steadfastly through this, right? And so usually we now say it in a brief moment of patience, maybe. But Peggy, read yours again.
If you love someone, you will be loyal to him no matter what the cost.
Perfect, right there. Continuing to be loyal through. So again, the long-suffering idea comes back to me with the term bears. The next one is believes all things, and I think that's the same in all of these versions here.
So is that faith? Are we talking about faith believes all things?
Love never loses faith.
Love never loses faith.
He says.
And idea is trust.
Yeah,
And
That's where I was going to go, more the trust side.
I think, at the very least, it would mean that, just say we love our brother or sister or our spouse or our grandkid, whatever. If you believed everything, as Paul's talking here, you believe the good things about them. You believe, until it's just poked in your face hard that you can't go on believing this, like Johnny's a good little boy, he'd never break your window and run. Well, until it's proven, you want to believe the best about them that's possible. Maybe partly, as Jesus would say, in the same way you'd want it believed about you. And if somebody says they want to do this or they don't want to do that in the church or whatever, and they say, here's the reason, we should believe that and try to put our gooey motives into their, that we should err on the side of generosity and goodwill to our brother and sister instead of looking for the evilest motives.
So in the description of elders that we read on Sunday morning a couple of times now in 1 Timothy and Titus, one of the descriptions is that they are above reproach, right? That's kind of the consequence of being believed in or trusting in, right? That you trust that what they say is true, innocent until proven guilty kind of idea. So I like, when I read believe, to me or trust was the other term, it seems like. To me, that's what it points out, is that I trust and believe this is truthful, is how Harold's brain is thinking, that you are saying the truth. Dennis's example of putting our slimy motives aside and not assuming they also have some. So that's kind of how I look at believes, is that we are actually called, if we're going to have agape love, to believe in somebody's, if they are having agape love off the bat.
Right, we want to believe, like, say we find a needy family in the church or something and would like to help them. We want to believe they're going to use that money to pay bills or buy groceries or whatever, not go to the casino or carnival. You know, we want to believe that it's going to be used well, and until they go and, you know, make it blatantly the wrong way, we've got to have some trust in them like we would want in ourselves, you know.
And it kind of ties back to verse 6 that love rejoices in truth and not in wrongdoing, right? And so we're seeking out the truth first. We're believing that it is the truth, not the wrongdoing. Brenda?
I was thinking of Acts 17:11 when the Bereans accepted what Paul said, but they searched every day to see if true. And to me, we talk about them searching, but not that they accepted and then they searched. They wanted to make sure.
Absolutely.
It's interesting, I just thought of something, never had before, but belief is the opposite of doubt.
Doubt, yeah.
And there's a place where either Jesus or Paul says, give to those who ask, doubting nothing. And I think he means, you know, give in good faith that they are going to use that to, you know, pay their heat bill or whatever, and not, you know, like I say, go to the casino or buy fireworks or, you know, it's we're to believe the best and doubt nothing. Now, I heard a preacher one time say, yeah, so I gave to that guy on the street there outside the liquor store, and I didn't doubt for a minute he was going to go right in and blow it. He did. But I don't think that's what it means.
So the believing and trusting, it really leads right into the hoping one too, right? Because if you believe that this is the truth, or all these examples we've had, you also kind of start to hope. You hope that God will prick their heart when you give them the money in front of the liquor store, that somebody was kind enough that they can go feed their family instead of being given into the demon again, right, basically.
Typically, in that situation, you're exercising hope in the secular sense, because hope in the secular world, means wishful thinking.
Sure.
But biblical hope is a confident expectation.
Yeah.
So,
Kind of like our faith is a confident, confident.
Right.
Same way.
Well, in Jeremiah 29:11, God says, I'm going to give you a hope and a future to the nation of Israel,
Yeah.
who's about to go into 70 years of slavery. So it's not a hope like, I'm going to get a lollipop. I hope it's cherry. It's a hope of a future with God in heaven. And I think it applies to us.
because it points to the future, whereas wishful thinking is just present, right here and now. Instant gratification.
Yeah. Also, I just realized we're pretty much out of time, so let me finish up this verse here. So hopes endures all things, which again reminds me of, kind of that long suffering of patience, enduring through whatever it is. Yeah, I know.
Puts up with all things.
Oh, puts up, there you go. Puts up with all things, endures. So, goes through it, even if you know it's not fun, I guess you could say, not enjoyable.
Now, Harold, I have something else to think.
Sure.
All right, love is patient, love is kind, that they say at weddings, at marriage ceremonies. If a couple believes that, but they also are in the agape love, it's easier.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said it could be fitting at weddings if there's more power behind it. And there's more power behind it if we took that time to say that. All right, so endures all things, and then I want to say the beginning of verse 8 on the end of verse 7, and I want to say it again next week, I guess, at the beginning of verse 8. Because love never ends. We've talked about being patient. We've talked about enduring. We've talked about some things where we kind of have the picture of it taking a while, but the longest taking a while it'll ever be is never ending, right? And so there's an encouragement and a challenge for us that if we are really going to love like God, it never ends. But then we can also have hope because we know that agape love, love from God, will never end for us. Right? So the promise of heaven will remain for us. That never ends based on how we're feeling. That never ends about our irritability. From God's perspective, agape love style is it's never ending that way as well. That makes the challenge even harder for us.
Well, it never ends from the perspective of if we are in Christ. If we were outside of Christ, then it ends.
Well, it never started in that sense.
You know, I mean, God's grace, which is His agape love, it's unending, but there's terms for taking a hold of it
Yep.
for eternity.
All right, I've got multiple comments, and so I'm going to go Brenda, Courtney. That was it, right? Oh, I knew that. Okay, we'll just end on comments and pick up in verse 8. Go for it, Brenda.
I think, to me, we've forgotten what this chapter is all about as far as it's about the gifts that God has given. That's what 12 is about, that's what 13 is about. And when we go to 14, the 14th chapter is about the gifts. This is all about the gifts, how we relate to the gifts that God has given us. And we need to apply it in this way. It's not just talking about love as far as generosity. This is talking about, to me, if you apply the whole context, it's about all the gifts that God's given us.
Dennis, I'll go with you next. Did you have one?
Yeah, I think sometimes, I mean, this is just my opinion, nobody has to subscribe to it at all, but a point is, where it says all these other things, you know, no matter this or that, it don't mean nothing. I think that's a kind of a Paul's way of saying it ain't as big as, because if I read things like Jonah, did he do any of that preaching out of love? I think he did it all out of flat out necessity, because he went through heck every time he didn't, and I don't think he cared a pig about those Ninevites.
I think that's how I perceive it too.
And so, but does it mean so it don't mean nothing? He ain't even got a chance at heaven or nothing? 'Cause, I mean, I think it meant something, even if his gizzard wasn't in it. He still obeyed, but I can't see that he did it out of love. Maybe there's a verse somewhere or something, but I think he did it out of self-preservation.
All right, Christine.
So this part right here, 4 through 8 part, it has the same tone to me as add to patience, love, and add to love. I can't think of what that, you know, when there's add, and then you start all over, you know.
2 Peter.
2 Peter. Or also the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And then you start over. I mean, it's never ending the amount you can have, the breadth of these things. You can always have them more increasingly. And that's what that means to me. Sean says that love will last forever. It keeps growing as we utilize it and practice it.
All right, Courtney, I'm just going comments. I'm trying not to comment in between you.
I know this is pretty common, but if you're ever wondering what